Japan wasn't fought by an army, but by just 80 samurai? And no, it wasn't the kamikaze storm that saved them. Before that storm ever hit, these men used terrain, tactics, and sheer audacity to disrupt an entire invasion. How did just 80 men achieve this? Keep watching to find out. Chapter 1. Storm Brewing. In the 1270s, Kublai Khan, ruler of half the known world, decided Japan would be next on his list. After Japanese emissaries very politely ignored his repeated demands for tribute, the great Khan marshaled a massive invasion fleet. By late 1274, some 800-900 ships with 16,000 to 40,000 troops. Mongols, Koreans, and Chinese conscripts set sail for Kyushu. The first targets were the tiny islands of Tsushima and Iki, the stepping stones to Japan's main island. The Kamakura shogunate even ordered shrines and temples to pray for divine help and build fortifications along likely landing points. Tsushima's deputy governor, 67-year-old So Sikakuni, got the news and hurriedly rallied his samurai. Legend has it the island's shrine to Hachiman caught fire, a terrible omen of defeat. But Sukekoni insisted it was a warning to prepare for battle. By early November, he and just 80 mounted samurai and their attendants awaited the invaders on Tsushima's beaches. Odds were absurd. One local commander with 80 men versus a Mongol horde that the Soshikafu, Tsushima Clan Chronicle, describes as 8,000 warriors on 900 ships. The calm before the storm was over. Before we move on to the next section, please don't forget to subscribe if you've liked the video so far. Chapter 2. Battle of the 80. The Mongol fleet arrived before dawn on November 4, 1274. 2 hours past midnight, their boats struck Tsushima's shore, and Sukenuni's 80 samurai were ready. They rode out under lamellar armor to meet the enemy. When Sukekuni sent officers to parley, Mongol archers drove them back with volleys of arrows. By early morning, the battle had erupted. It was literally 80 warriors against the world. 8,000 Mongols swarmed the beach. One Tsushima Chronicle notes that even in this desperate melee, one hero stood out. A samurai named Sukesada, who cut down 25 enemy soldiers in individual combat before falling. Despite such valor, sheer numbers prevailed. The small force was quickly overwhelmed. By nightfall, the Mongols pressed on, and the final Japanese charge was beaten back. Sukekuni himself was killed in the fighting. The invaders immediately began looting. They torched villages and slaughtered most of Tsushima's inhabitants. In a few furious hours, Tsushima had fallen. 80 samurai had fought a battle that shocked the steppe, though none of them survived it. Incredibly, a tiny band of Bushido warriors had held off Khan's armies long enough to leave their mark on history. Even a Mongol analyst admitted many ships vanished in the aftermath. Chapter 3. Bombs and Cavalry. Undeterred, the Mongol fleet then steamed towards Kyushu's Hakata Bay. In mid-November 1274, they landed some 20 miles south of Dazaifu capital. The warriors sent to meet them had just finished hearing about Tsushima's fate, and now discovered the enemy's terrifying new weapons. Samurai formation was used to archery and single combat, but the Mongols unleashed 1/3 of their force killed and forced inland. The Yuan army paused just offshore, anchored for the night. It would prove a fatal decision. The next morning, most of the Mongol fleet was gone. A sudden typhoon, the first kamikaze, had struck. Japanese diaries noted most of the Yuan ships had disappeared, and the Mongol Chronicle dryly records a great storm arose and many warships were dashed on the rocks. Perhaps 200 vessels were wrecked, and some 13,500 men drowned. With that, the invaders withdrew to Korea, battered but not broken. Chapter 4. Raiding the Horde. Kublai Khan soon prepared a second, even larger invasion. By 1281, he had amassed 4,400 ships and up to 100,000 men, according to some accounts, from China and Korea. This time, the Japanese knew what was coming. Massive stone walls, the Ginko Borui, and bamboo stakes were erected at all likely beaches. In June 1281, the new invasion splintered. One fleet again hit Tsushima, June 9th, and Iki, June 14th, virtually wiping out those islands' defenders. The main force then steamed for Hakata Bay once more. But when thousands of Mongol troops tried to land on Kyushu, they found a very different battlefield. The Hakata Wall and stakes blunted their onslaught, and casualties mounted. The Yuan commander eventually split his forces and sat offshore. That night, the samurai struck back. Small Japanese boats crept out in the darkness and rained terror on the Mongol fleet. According to Hachiman Gudokun, warrior Kusana Jiro led a daring boarding attack. He and his men actually set fire to a Mongol ship and took 21 heads in the melee. In another raid, Kawano Michiari, aboard 2 tiny boats, slew a huge Mongol warrior with his sword. Even the future chronicler, Takazaki Tsunaga, joined the fray. The Mongols were suddenly fighting on the defensive. The next day, the Japanese repeated the tactic. Samurai hit Mongol ships along the coast, preventing them from landing more troops. The battered invaders limped away to nearby islands, where they hunkered down under the constant threat of these agile raids. In a few weeks of these ghostly night attacks, the samurai sowed dread among the invaders, forcing them to lash their ships together in a floating fortress against further assaults. By August 14th, one Mongol admiral lamented Japan's fighters would pierce the hull of any ship that lingered. But what saved the Mongols was what nature would send next. We came like wolves, but it was the wind that finished the hunt. Chapter 5. Heaven's Wrath. Want to understand the world better? Start with history and subscribe to our channel. The Mongols finally had the samurai cornered in Imari Bay, but fate was not on their side. On the night of August 14th, 1281, a massive typhoon descended on the invaders. Descriptions are chilling. Countless Mongol ships, roped together for mutual defense, were smashed to splinters. As one scholar writes, the so-called kamikaze, or divine winds, sank and drowned countless ships and men, thus saving Japan from conquest. Contemporary accounts tally the losses in horrifying detail. The second storm, like the first, ripped Mongol vessels against reefs. Perhaps half to 2/3 of the fleet was lost. Thousands of warriors drowned or were stranded on beaches and executed. Japan would later call these tempests kamikaze because they believed the Shinto god Hachiman himself had answered their desperate prayers. Divine wind indeed. After these storms, Kublai Khan's dream was sunk. Over 30,000 invaders, by one estimate, never returned. The Mongol commander admitted defeat. Battered, leaderless, he ordered the shattered survivors home. Japan had survived 2 hails of steel and iron, only to be saved at the last by winds from the gods. Chapter 6. Legendary Fear. The Mongol invasions left an indelible mark on history. For Japan, it was a national wake-up call. The first time the entire military might of Japan had had to be mobilized, making it a true watershed in their history. Shrines and temples that had prayed for salvation were vindicated by the kamikaze, and their war god Hachiman's fame soared. Artist Takezaki Suenaga even commissioned the famous Mongol scroll, now in museums, to depict those brutal days, ensuring the tale of 80 courageous samurai would echo through the ages. For the Mongols, the lesson was burned in their memory too. The invincible Great Khan had to abandon his plans. Kublai resorted to diplomacy, sending more envoys, but got no submission. Indeed, the shogun's reply in 1275 and 1279 was to have each messenger executed. All over the world, the name kamikaze became shorthand for Japan's divine protection. 1281 marked the end of Mongol Japan's ambitions. Within a few decades, the Yuan dynasty itself would collapse. In the end, a handful of samurai driven by honor and homeland held back the might of the empire and earned their legends. Do you think the Mongols would have conquered Japan if not for the samurai's suicidal courage? Or was it really the kamikaze storms that saved Japan? Let us know in the comments below. Here's another video history buffs enjoyed watching. Goodbye for now.